Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam.
Thank you, Dr. Modi, respected Director of GC Government Medical College, and respected Dr. Modi and other dignitaries. Friends, today we are going to talk on national education policy. We all know that this national education policy is something which is very popular among us, and it is a hot discussion topic among all of us nowadays. Sir, shall I request for sharing of my screen if somebody can allow me technically? Yeah, fine. It can be allotted, the rights can be allotted me later on. Till now, I'll go on that. I would like to just pose a question that why this national policy on education? Why we need to come out with policies? Friends, as you know, that whenever we would like to go for some transformational changes, whenever we would like to go for some changes in any kind of system, we come out with a new policy. Like we have different policies for say, for example, housing. We have different policies for citizenship. We have different policies for visas. Like that, whenever we would like to go for a change, which is accepted, which is a big change, the change which we would like to go on a vast number, this all includes policies. As you know, this policy has come after a big gap of about 34 years. So before 34 years, we had another policy. These policies, when they come out, they create a lot of transformation, they create a lot of new institutions, and they create some things which we do not have in the present existence. So this is how the policies work. I would like to take you to the next step of this policy, and that is it talks about that. See, friends, as you know, the education system in the country is all set for a complete makeover with this policy. That is what I am quoting from National Education Policy, and that talks about that the system in the country is all set. That means the government want the system is to be drastically changed. The policy is meant to provide an overreaching vision. See, exactly the vision which will be comprehensive, a framework of education system across the country that will be provided by the system. If you look at highlights of the system, the few highlights are the name of Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India, that is MHRD. We know it since years. That is renamed as Ministry of Education. So that is the first drastic change. Second one is all the higher education institutions except legal and medical colleges. I'm going to talk in detail about medical education, but medical colleges and legal, except them, they will be governed by a single window. That means there'll be a single system and that will govern all the systems. The third one here we can talk about is phasing out of affiliation system in 15 years. That means, friends, at present we all are aware that if you talk about any college, we say that, okay, college is affiliated to X institution or college is affiliated to Y university. Like Gujarat University has number of affiliated colleges. Those students who are listening to me or those teachers who are listening to me, they know that your institution is affiliated to Gujarat University. So like this, but the policy wants that let us not have this affiliating system. If you look at European countries, if you look at North America, particularly US and Canada, the colleges are autonomous. The colleges go out with some degrees, but they are not affiliated to any university. Colleges can confer the programs till undergraduate programs. That means still degree programs. They cannot run programs above degree. Here also we are going to think of similar system somewhere that the universities will have more provisions. The universities will be able to confer the degree of PhD, that means doctorate, but the colleges will be able to go for degrees which are till graduation level. The next important striking feature is there will be holistic and multidisciplinary education in terms of flexibility of subjects. That means there will be flexibility of subjects, and in this flexibility of subjects, we will have a system which will be which is not necessarily just rigid and which will be giving education to only selected kind of, you can say, institution, subjects or faculties. So this will be another change. The next change, which is very striking, is common norms for private, public, higher education systems. At present, we know that there are several norms where there are some differences between the norms for government institutions, that means public institutions, and private institutions. But it is going to come out under central government's umbrella that there will be similar norms, similar rules and regulations for all the institutions, whether it is private or it is public. The next striking change, and the last one which I would like to talk about, is academics, administrative and financial autonomy will be given to colleges on the basis of the accreditation status. At present, we know that the colleges do not have autonomy in terms of academics because they need to follow the syllabuses which are designed by the universities. They do not have administrative autonomy in the terms that they have to follow all the rules and regulations decided by the university and many by the state government. And if we look at the financial one, again, they are dependent on the grants which they receive from government. So these kind of autonomies will be granted, and that will be very useful to the institutions for their growth in different ways. Now, I would like to take you to a sentence which is very important, friends, for this national policy on education. All of you should look at it. This National Education Policy 2020 is only a policy, not a law. That means, friends, this is not a regulation which is notified in Gazette. It has not come as a notification, but it has come as a policy. Implementation of its proposal depends on further regulations by both state and central, as education is in concurrent list. I guess most of you are aware of the fact that education falls under concurrent list. Now, I guess you know, but let me clarify it for those who do not have much clarity about this concurrent list. When India has become independent and Indian government has come out with regulations called, we can call it Samvidhan of Bharat. When it got implemented, in that there are several lists which provide that these are the activities which fall under the criteria of state government, and these are the activities which fall under the criteria of central government. So there are various activities which come under the criteria of different people, different governments. Like state government can make rules, central government can make rules. That is how both the governments can make rules for education in different way. But friends, now important part is, I guess all of you may be aware of it, that when this 7th Pay Commission was implemented, what happened? That pay commission was not exactly applicable to all the state governments unless the state governments accepted that pay commission. That means after central government has come out with central 7th Pay Commission, Gujarat government, like Delhi government, or there are many governments. I can name any government, any state government. These state governments have gone for different regulations, and after they accepted it, only after that it came into force. Like that, this national education policy will be in force only after that is accepted by the respected state governments. But friends, I would be very happy to share with all of you that our state government is one of very active state government, and government of Gujarat, that is Honorable Chief Minister of Government of Gujarat, Rupani ji, has already declared that Gujarat will be among the top states, among the first states who is going to follow this policy. So friends, we are going to follow this policy, and to implement this policy, again, I am very proud to share that, friends, that the Vice Chancellor of Gujarat University, Professor Dr. Himanshu Pandya, has been appointed in the committee which is constituted by Government of Gujarat to implement this national education policy in Gujarat. So for higher education in Gujarat, there is a committee which is constituted, and the chairman of the committee is Honorable Education Minister of Gujarat, and in that committee our Vice Chancellor sits. So this will come very fast, And we will see the results of this committee, and we will see what can be implemented very soon. Now, friends, I would like to take you to few highlights of this national policy on education. What are the highlights and what are the things, what are the key factors of this national policy on education? This government of India has come out with a document that all of you are aware, and they came out with some presentations on this also. Here, this one is which was declared by Government of India. At the time, the ministry was known as HRD Ministry, that is Human Resource Development Ministry. They came out with some key features. The striking and key features of this are like respect for diversity and local context. So in all curriculum, pedagogy and policy, whatever we teach, it should have some respect for diversity. It should have respect for diversity in terms of class, in terms of religion, in terms of creed, in terms of geography, whether you belong to Mumbai or whether you belong to Maharashtra, whether you belong to Orissa, whether you belong to Gujarat, you should be treated equally for education. Whether you are Sikh, Isai, Hindu or Muslim, you should be treated equally. Whether it is a city, that means urban or rural area, there should be equal kind of opportunities available. And that is why it talks about equity and inclusion. Now, equity, all of you are aware of. Equity means equality. All should be equal when it comes to the need of education. And inclusion means even the last person, the person who is not privileged. If I say in Gujarati, even Chewada no manas, je ekdam kabach Adivasi area ma rahe chhe, athwa to ekdam antaryal vistar ma rahe chhe. Those people who live in interior areas or those who belong to some tribes, they should also be included as far as education is concerned. So the decisions of education should be such that all should be benefited. Community participation. That means the community should participate. See, nowadays, it is not so that it is only the responsibility of government. It is our responsibility. When it comes to our responsibility, that means philanthropic, and Gujarat and India is very famous for philanthropic institutions. Like we have many institutions which have been established by philanthropic people. Those who donated a lot of money for different things. Say, for example, let me give you an example of Gujarat University. Those who are not aware of, the whole land of Gujarat University, about 400-acre land of Gujarat University was donated by a family for developing this educational institute, and they are Lalbhai, Kasturbai and that family. They have donated this land for Gujarat University. Like that, you may be aware of that when you are studying in a school, or maybe you are studying in a college or somewhere, you would have seen that many institutions are named after some people. And when they are named after those people, they are in most of the cases donated by them. So one is this philanthropic, another one is private education. Friends, private institutions, like we have many private institutions flourishing and mushrooming in Gujarat, they are also advocated. And community participation. So we as a community should participate in coming out with new institutions. Use of technology. How can we deny use of technology, friends? Technology is something which is very important and very much relevant. So technology in teaching, learning, language barriers, and in many other fields, that means in whole education, the technology is to be followed, the technology is to be looked at, and the use of technology, optimum use of technology is advocated. Emphasize on conceptual understanding. You all may be aware that many a time we say that, okay, study means what? Study means cramming, learning by heart, and learning for exams. Many students, when they are studying in schools or maybe in colleges, what they look at the syllabus, they look at the paper style, and then they decide, okay, this chapter is an option, then we will study this chapter only. We will not study that chapter because that has very less importance in exam. So education has become exam oriented. Education has become like learning, ratta marna jisko kehte hain. So like that, so this education policy, this 2020 policy talks about conceptualized understanding. It talks about no cramming. It talks about something which you can understand and you come out with and you understand that well, that is more important. Next is unique capabilities. Recognize and identify in each student. As we know, each student or each human being is unique. When you look at the cases in medical, they may be similar, but you may find sometimes that each case which comes has unique features. Like that each student, it has unique features. His geographical background, his home, his society, the way he is nurtured, his parents, and a lot of other things make him different from outside. But if you look at the inside of the student, that is his physique and his mind, he is altogether different. And he has some capacity and capabilities which other people do not have. So the education will try to bring out those talents and those capacities of the students which other students do not have. The main aim of education is to develop cognitive aspect, is to develop critical thinking, is to develop creativity. So to focus on this, government is going to encourage a lot of new initiatives which are known as incubators, and they will encourage logical decision making and innovation. Now, continuous review, because see, whatever you do, if you do not review it, then how will you understand that whether it is performing well or not? So based on sustained researches and regular assessment, this educational expert will come out with different ideas, and they will come out with different things which are important for our students, our education. If reforms are required, if changes are required, everything will be looked at, and they will be looked at from different angles, and they will be assessed, they will be evaluated, and whatever best is there, that will be accepted for performance in education. Now, friends, as I'm talking to medical fraternity, the teachers of medical field, the practitioners of medical field, and the students of medical field, I would like to focus more on medical one. So here what I would like to focus on is, friends, I would like to talk about how this National Education Policy 2020 will affect the future of medical education system in India. Let us try to understand how can that happen and how will this happen. The National Education Policy 2020 proposes transformation in the medical and healthcare education structure in India. How? Let us try to, I would like to quote National Education Policy here, what it reads. Let me read it for you. I would like to tell you that it particularly talks about medical and education, and it says healthcare education needs to be re-envisioned. That means it is to be re-envisioned. Whatever vision was thought of medical education, that is to be changed, that is to be looked upon once again, so that the duration, listen me very carefully, duration, structure, and design of educational programs of medical education need to match the role and requirement that graduates will play. That means here they would like to go for changing three major things: the duration, structure, and design of educational programs through which we study our MBBS programs, through which we study different kind of educational programs. The policy also states that the students will be assessed at regular intervals on well-defined parameters primarily required for working in primary care and secondary hospitals. That means those who are going to work at primary care, you know, when anybody has any health issue, they just go to primary care centers. They go to some MBBS doctor, they go to some doctor who is available in neighborhood or maybe available nearby. And then they may go to secondary hospitals if some specialization is required, if some operation is required, or some specialized advice is required. So at both this level, they will be assessed regularly that what parameters are required for primary one and what more parameters are required for the secondary hospitals. This certainly shows that the reforms are intended to bring about a profound impact on the quality of healthcare delivery. Exactly, healthcare is something which is very much important, and it has to deliver in a specified way, and it should deliver exactly as it is expected to deliver. As we know, friends, during this pandemic, during this epidemic, we whole world is looking at healthcare with a lot of honor and respect, and it is our duty to retain this honor and respect. Not only our duty, but it is a duty of the government to make such a system which can make them flourish. And that is what is happening through this National Education Policy. In the long run, this would come in handy in providing the quality of infrastructure for primary and secondary healthcare, particularly in rural areas, because India thrives in rural. India lives in rural areas. So now in rural areas, it is very much necessary that we should come out with primary and secondary qualitative infrastructure for healthcare, and lot of is thought about this in national education policy. Competency-based assessment and focus on creating professionals who can work primarily or work in primary and secondary healthcare. Setting up will require, because lot of setup will require, lot of infrastructure will require. It will be required that we need to go for redesigning of current healthcare education model that often focus on tertiary healthcare setting. At present, we talk on tertiary healthcare setting and systems, but that is to be required to be looked at with a new setting of two different kind of setups, primary and secondary. Friends, all of you may be aware of Government of India scheme named as Ayush. When we talk of Ayush, that has a linkage with national education policy now. Apart from this, what I've talked about, the model primary and secondary, there is a plan of national education policy to integrate modern medicine. That means what we call this allopathy with a traditional system of Indian, we can say curative system, Indian healthcare system, and that is broadly known as Ayurveda, that is broadly known as yoga, that is broadly known as naturopathy, that is broadly known as Unani, that is broadly known as Siddha, and homeopathy. This all will be included in Ayush when we talk about Ayush. And you know that this Ayush word stands for Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy. Now this will be taken into consideration and they will integrate with this modern and traditional kind of education system. Okay, I know that it will require a lot of hard work to come on this. Now, what National Education and Policy talks about this Ayush, what I told you, it says, given that the people exercise pluralistic choice in healthcare. At present, we do not have pluralistic choice. Plural, you know, singular and plural. That means more than one option, more than one alternative. You require alternative healthcare system. And for that, this Ayush is thought of. It will provide alternative care system. That means our healthcare education system must be integrative. Integrative meaning thereby that all subjects of allopathy, medical education must have be based on the understanding of Ayush and vice versa. That means this concept of Ayush will be integrated in the system of MBBS and medicine. While the number of doctors per 1,000 people in, if you look at UK, that is around 3. That means in European countries per 1,000 people, there is 1 doctor. If you look at India, it is about 0.8. So that is 2 less. In spite of about 76,000 to be specific, or about 1 lakh, about 70,000 to 1 lakh allopathic doctors passing out from medical colleges every year in India, the health scenario is made worse by paradox of glut of doctors in urban areas. We can see that there is a glut of doctors in urban areas. We find lot of doctors in urban areas, but if you look at rural areas, there are problems. Almost 80% of the doctors are concerned in or concentrated in urban areas, serving only 20% of Indian population. This is very important, friends, to know for all of you who are in medical profession and studying medical profession. Most of these urban doctors are specialized or specialists. They want to become micro specialist also. Added to this, there is a problem. There is a problem of unemployment of doctors. That is also there. You can see that underemployment has started flourishing. After graduation, most of the medical professionals do not practice their newly learned skills. Because see, when you are coming out as a new professional, when you come out as a new doctor from your college, you have a lot of new skills which you have imbibed. But what happens is, instead of healing the community, instead of helping the community to get healed from their pains and whatever problems they have, they are more motivated to go for reading. What kind of reading? That is postgraduate entrance test. Any MBBS person, ask yourself, ask your students what they are more interested in. They are more interested in preparing for PG entrance test than taking the responsibility of serving the community. So what happens is a liberal estimate of about 50% of candidates getting PG seats would leave about 38,000 doctors without a PG seat every year. That means if you look at 76,000 as a number of doctors who pass out in graduation, then the seats are about 38. That means about 38,000 we can say. Then there are other 38,000 who are left over. This has left many young medical doctors disillusioned. This is one of the reasons why doctors migrate to greener pastures. Now I would like to talk about that also. What is this greener pasture? How the NEP puts it. It is worse still. See, many doctors are quitting medical professions. They are opting for other professionals or other professions like civil services, management, and business. I could see that there are many doctors who pass UPSC, civil services examinations, they become IAS or IPS officers. There are medical professionals who after doing their MBBS, they go to management side and they try for IIM Ahmedabad or many other reputed management institutions. What are the causes for this rut of medical profession? That is also looked upon by this national education policy. The present medical education has not changed since independence. If you look in general, that is in a broad way, there are not much changes. While the rest of the world has progressed in leaps and bounds of medical education, and while the world of medicine has made tremendous progress, graduate medical education has failed to keep up with the times. I'm very sorry to say this is, I'm quoting from one of very scholarly research article. As a fallout of this, the present graduate program do not produce competent doctors. Post-graduation and specialization have become a sine qua non. That means everybody is interested in going for specialization. Everybody is interested in going for post-graduation. And to this craze of getting degrees, and we get doctors sitting at home preparing for entrance exams instead of treating patients and earning livings. That is what the scene which we see. Unlike engineers, accountants, and lawyers, the medical profession has a long waiting period before they exactly start their decent earning. I would like to say, see, I'm talking on very practical phases, because exactly when they start their decent earning, before them, it was earlier that engineers, accountants, and lawyers, they used to wait, but now there is a waiting period even for the doctor. The problems plunging the present medical education are lack of adequate training at a graduate level, making PG training necessary. What happens is the doctors feel that the training which they get at that degree level is not really sufficient, is not enough, and they would like to go for PG courses. Emphasis on degrees rather than training. Many a time people are more inclined towards training, not training, towards degrees and not on training. Long waiting period before decent earning really starts. And you know, if you talk to anybody, they will say, okay, if you'd like to start your private hospital, you will require this much amount. We need to have a serious introspection and find a solution to these problems. And our national education policy came to our remedy. A strategy to reform medical education to make it more relevant was submitted to the Parliament of India, that is Subcommittee of Parliament of India for Reforms in Medical Education, which was established in 1996. The principles behind the new career plan for medical students, which was suggested, was, one is early specialization. That means the students should have early specialization, creation of well-trained primary doctors, removal of irrelevant curricula, whatever is not really very much important or relevant, de-emphasize of the degrees, creation of two stream of careers. See, now let us try to understand how this national education policy is going to take this into consideration and how that will be very important for all of us. Basically, a new scheme would consist of 5 years of study consisting of 10 semesters. Let me tell you very quickly, because we are running out of time now. I guess we have already reached to 12. The entry would be based on common national entrance test, that is which is happening, which will test academic knowledge and aptitude. A central computerized matching program would ensure fairness and transparency during the admission at the entry level, like this NEET and other specialization which happens at engineering or at some IIM levels. A wide range of specializations would be available. To name a few, we would have specializations like, I'm talking about primary in the first education, like you can say family practice, hospitalology, traumatology, pediatric cardiology, neurosurgery, infertility, forensic sciences, and many more. However, the biggest share will be there in family practices. The first year of 2 semesters, that is the first 2 semesters of first year would be for relevant studies in anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. The second year 2 semesters would be relevant studies in pathology, pharmacology, and public health. The 2 semesters of third year will be given exposure to related specializations. Now the specializations will start from the third year here. For example, a student taking cardiology could get exposure to cardiac surgery and you can say pulmonology from the third year itself. The fourth and fifth years of the 4 semesters of these last 2 years would be devoted in-depth study to the chosen specialization. That means the clinical training, that means that will be specialized clinical training from early stages. However, the clinical training would start from the second year onwards, giving an effective period of 4 years of specialty. An elective of humanities should be introduced and incorporated for doctors to be more human. I understand that there are two problems which are researched about medical profession as far as doctors are concerned. One is communication with the patients and another is humanistic approach. I agree that most of you have those things, but these are something which are researched by different people and they come out with this. On completion of the course, the candidate is awarded with the degree of MD, let us say, Doctor of Medicine in specialty like MD Neurology or Neurosurgery or MD Family Practice. This would replace the degrees like MBBS, MD, DM, MS, and DNB like different degrees. This is one of very prominent suggestion. Next, career prospects branch in 2 streams. Now, career prospects can be in 2 streams. One is academician and one is practitioner. These are the undercurrent suggestions which are almost discussed there. These academicians, what will happen is the students opting for academician stream will have at least 1 year training in medical pedagogy. You know, friends, the doctor may be very good doctor, but it is not necessary that being a very good practitioner. It may happen with doctor, it may happen with chartered accountant, it may happen with lawyer, it may happen with anybody, any professional who is very good in his profession, but not necessary that he is very good teacher. So those who are more interested in pedagogy, they will be trained at least for 1 year for pedagogy things, so that they can become more effective teacher. Most of the medical teachers are not trained for teaching. Such training will create professional teachers. The next years will be lecturer, followed by assistant professor and professor. That will happen and that will really help these teachers. Now those who will go to practitioner stream would have 1 year internship under a senior consultant in specialty. The next year will be a specialist followed by 5 years as consultant. And finally, senior consultant. So this is how there'll be 3 different grades which can be followed by people, and they can go for practitioner streams and they can make their learning, teaching, and delivery better. The only higher degree awarded in medical profession will be PhD, and that will be for outstanding research. Those who really would like to go for outstanding researches, they can go for this. Some salient features of the scheme can be emphasized, like all medical colleges need not have all the courses. Not necessary that all the colleges should run all the courses. And one can start innovative courses depending on the need. See, exactly that at present there is a need of courses related to epidemic and pandemic. So there can be such courses can be started. Medical practice is now technology driven. We all know that capital intensive private institutions can be inducted into teaching programs for certain specialties which are more related to technology driven, because everything cannot be done by just one institute. Specialists like general medicine and general surgery will host, and there is a lot of relevance to be looked at. Certain specialties like obstetrics and gynecology have to be split into components wherever it is required. So these are the innovations. The most important thing is innovation idea of family practice as a specialty. So there'll be doctor, maximum seats will be available for family practice, and people would try to go for this family practice. This will give self-respect to the practitioner in many ways, that they are going for some specializations from their starting, that means their undergraduate level. India needs for more family practitioners, and the scheme will satisfy the need of India. The course content of family practice will be the identification of the treatment and output type problems in every other clinical specialty, which emphasis on preventive aspects. So NEP again talks about preventive aspects also. Similarly, in confirmation with the national education policy, some elements of IU streams would be integrated into specialty. A suitable curriculum need to be designed, prepared, and further suitable curricula have to be developed for emerging specializations. There are many new specializations which are emerging. So for that also we should come out with more curriculas related to that which can be useful to us. It is high time we give up the current archaic medical training program. This was made during the early days when there were only two major branches, medicine and surgery. So we have to look at other ways, and we have to look at, and this education policy will help us to look at this. The degrees of MBBS, I would not say they are outdated, but yes, there are many problems happening with degrees like happening with Bachelor of Mechanical or Bachelor of Electrical Engineering. By applying the current career path, MBBS, MD and DM, to a computer science student would go through like MBBE, Mechanical and Electrical. See, computer people are doing now. Now those who are engineers, they are going for specializations which club them, like MBBE, Bachelor in Mechanical and Electric, followed by ME, that means Master in Electronics, and followed by EM, that means Computer Science Mastering. Early specializations are suggested in this medical field also, and that will help us. What we ought to do in wider range of include all specialties at the entry level. This is possible, and these reforms were suggested in 1997. This can be thought of, I guess. I would like to quote the reform. What it says is, a reduction is made of 6 months MBBS, 1 MBBS course, increasing the training period of 2 and 3 MBBS, that means year 2 and 3. The reductions of 6 months in first year of MBBS is meant to reduce the quantum of teaching and pre-clinical subjects and to give time during later years for more clinical and more specialized teaching. For example, a student is opting for surgical. Specialty needs more knowledge of anatomy than physiology, with special emphasis to the region of the specialty. So this can be done, and this is how it can be looked at. So I won't go for more examples now. I thought of a lot of things here, but I guess I'll keep it more to the next aspect which I would like to talk about. The plan has drawn of mixed reactions for experts, and there are various kind of reactions from experts on this. Some people say that, okay, this can be possible, this cannot be possible, this can happen, this cannot happen. But I would like to tell you that there is a shortfall in number of seats in postgraduate courses in many disciplines, particularly in medical education, where the number of seats has to be increased. And taking into consideration all this draft of national education policy, which was drafted earlier in about 400 pages, and the summary which has come at present as a policy or gist, that proposed to increase these seats as quickly as possible and available infrastructures in hospitals and allow the country to admit more and more doctors for PG and UG programs. The plan was to start new 2 postgraduate courses in medical colleges and hospitals that have an adequate number of patients and well-trained teaching faculty, and to move the district hospitals towards having medical colleges attached to them. So this is also one of the plan which has been thought of. And it was there in earlier draft, but I guess that will also be implemented. So this National Education Policy 2020, I would like to tell you once again that it is just a policy, it is not a law. Implementation of its proposals depend on further regulations by both state government and central government. And let us see that how early it comes to the realization. Through the policy seeks to bring holistic range in education system, holistic changes, transformation in education, and I am very hopeful to the success of it. Now just I would like to take you to the last slide which I would like to tell you, and that slide talks about it talks about the roadmap, how this education policy can be implemented, how we will be able to, what is the time frame, and with that in 2 minutes I will conclude my session. Let me straight take you to the implementation strategies of this education policy for whole India. Yes, let us have a look at this slide. I'll just share the slide with you and you can have a look at this. Yes, just 1 minute. I'm sharing the slide with you. Yeah, it is here. So this slide talks about timeline for implementation of NEP. This timeline talks about 2021-22 to 2040. This talks about that in 2021, formulation of national curriculum framework for school and for other national curriculum format for teacher education and everybody. From that till 2040. This is available on the website. I'm not going to discuss this in detail. So friends, this time frame is till 2040. We are in 2020. So it is a time frame of 20 years. During this time frame of 20 years, there will be many changes. It will come with many changes and we will see these changes. These changes are for transformation of our education system, our medical education system, and all inclusive education system. I guess these ideas will be useful to you for thinking ahead about educational policy. I would like to thank the people of the organizers and particularly Dr. Modi for giving me this platform to talk to you. And I'd be happy to talk to you in future also. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all who are directly or indirectly involved in this organization of this webinar. Thank you very much.